Washington and speak to Jeffrey Stacey. He's a national security consultant. He's a former U.S. State Department official. Jeffrey, thank you so much for your time. Do you mind if we examine America's position? Let's suppose we could geographically transfer U.S. territory to border Syria. Would the American administration feel the same way then as it does now?
Well, no, but that's where things are very complicated. We know that the North Atlantic Treaty, the Article 5 defines, to paraphrase, attack against one is an attack against all. And the question among the alliance is who attacked first. That's a key question here. Now, there is middle ground, and that's what both sides, both the NATO/US European side, the Turkish side, they should be the same sides. They need to come together, and we should really take this out of the hands of the politicians. Trump, Tusk, Erdogan, Stoltenberg, I mean, basically let the military staffs handle this. There should be a ceasefire. Essentially, there's a way to do this together to get back to joint patrols, and that includes other members of the NATO alliance as well, and that can secure Turkey's security interests, despite what Donald Tusk and the Pentagon have said today.
Okay, potential peaceful solution I'll come on to next, but I just want to pick up on what you said, who attacked first. Why won't Washington accept that the YPG is the Syrian arm of the PKK? It actually, I believe, has been said quietly and whispered in corridors, but not said in front of an open microphone. The YPG, for goodness sake, has had pictures of Abdullah Öcalan up in their buildings. That man is the head of the PKK. That's an internationally recognized terrorist group. So if it's a question of who attacked first, well, we know what the PKK's been doing in Turkey. It's killed tens of thousands of people over the past few decades. That's what Turkey's saying. We need to get rid of this terror group before we can be secure in our own land, in our own Turkish territory.
Sure, but if we look at where things were some time ago, before domestic political considerations caused the Turkish government to change tack, there was actually some quiet diplomacy going on with Kurds inside Turkey. And then all that changed for the reasons that we all know well. Where we are is where we are, and that is that this president here in the U.S., who's not experienced, made a decision that is regrettable in the eyes of the alliance, and that should include all members, including Turkey. What we need to do is, while the Turks have been very careful to avoid civilian deaths, to establish a zone and to not make sure that ISIS fighters in the tens of thousands are released from their prisons. It's amazing that the Kurds are not leaving those guarding positions as of now. So there is a chance for a ceasefire. There's a chance for full NATO. There could be a resolution in the North Atlantic Council with full alliance together, Turkey, US, Europe, everybody. And then we can figure out a way to do this. I have myself published 5 articles in Foreign Affairs and other publications in the last 2 years advocating for a safety zone. That is something that is doable, and we ought to go to every length to ensure that, 1, Turkey's national interests and security interests are secure, 2, those of the alliance are secure, and then we can get somewhere as long as we avoid these red lines related to civilian deaths and the release of ISIS fighters.
Okay, more theorizing, because of course we don't know where we're going to end up. But can you see any scenario in which President Trump sends his envoys to speak to the YPG, tells them, get away from the Turkish border and give up your weapons? Do you see, if that offer were to happen, the YPG even being able to accept that? Because some people say that they really want to safeguard the gains they've made, which are gains that they are going to benefit from, they believe, once there is a peace in Syria, because they are not allied to Bashar al-Assad, and with their weapons and with their fighting Daesh, they've been able to establish some kind of entity in that part of Syria which they may want to preserve for the future. Is that at all possible, that sort of scenario?
I do think it is possible, yes. I think that is one of the possible scenarios, and inevitably, with a resolution to this, that would be one of the key planks. That is absolutely doable, and that is one of the things that should be discussed rapidly. I suggest first between the military staffs, because the politicians are really out on a variety of limbs, both in Washington and Brussels and in Ankara. Let's get the military staffs together. General Votel has been very clear on this in recent days. We've got to do this. We can get this done. Let's actually preserve. We don't want, the last thing we want is a humanitarian disaster, and then all is said and done, all of a sudden, all across the alliance, people want to kick Turkey out. That is what we want to avoid. But we want to avoid even more than that. Basically, Turkey being harmed. We want to avoid civilian Kurdish and other Arabs, including Christians, being harmed. It's all of us who have joint interests in finding a rapid resolution. Let's start with the ceasefire. And yes, the YPG, I think, absolutely can be persuaded to get out of the military positions that they've used to threaten Turkey with.
Jeffrey Stacey, you know, we always appreciate your contributions on TRT World. Thank you.